Alan Solomon, who's on our board, will lead us. He's also Marine. Will lead us in the pledges.
How are y'all doing tonight? All right, if you'll bow your heads with me, we'll go ahead and say the word of the Lord. Father God, I just thank you so much for everybody taking the time to be here tonight, Lord. And there's just so much going on in the world right now, and it just seems uncontrollable. But Lord, we know that you're in control, and Lord, we come to these meetings because we're looking for a way to plug in and all that. So I pray that you just give us wisdom and a vision about how to do that, and Lord, that you'd help us to step out and step up and be bold about what we're doing. Lord, we love you, and we chase you with everything that we do, and just pray that you would always just help us to see the way. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
We don't have anyone to lead the anthem, but why don't we sing it anyway? Thank you. Okay, so we have a few announcements to make and a couple people that are going to be making announcements. First of all, if you have one of these in your seat and you're interested in filling it out, just fill it out and leave it in your seat, and Maggie will pick it up. This is the Ted Cruz thing. Okay, is Jolynn here? Jolynn, why don't you come on up and be ready? And Aaron, you're ready? Okay. Yeah, so while you guys are coming up, let's talk about town hall meetings. Has anybody been to a town hall meeting yet with their congressman? Oh, fantastic, great, because we invited them all to come to the Tea Party like, I don't know, 9 months ago, and all of them said, oh gosh, I can't make it. So they're not really interested in hearing from us, but they are having town halls, and there's nothing to stop us from showing up at other ones. So we are very fortunate that the Northeast Tarrant Republican Club has Kenny Marchant coming on Monday night to the Bedford Library at 6:30. This meeting actually starts at 7, but a little cookies and coffee at 6:30. So I will be emailing out, so watch for it tomorrow or later this week, specific questions that we really need to be asking our congressmen. I think you guys are probably all just as frustrated as I am, and Wade Miller, who tends to advise me on these national issues, but you know, they made a lot of promises. Well, when we have the Senate, or you know, all these different things they're going to do with Obamacare and defunding on this and that, and they haven't done it. So we need to hold them accountable at these town halls. If you don't show up at these town halls, they get away with it, and then they know they can continue to get away with it. So we'll send out information on the Kenny Marchant Town Hall, along with questions that you can ask. And Arlington Tea Party is hosting Congressman Joe Barton, and that is on Thursday night this week at 6:30. So you can go to arlingtonteaparty.com and get details on where that's at. It's in Pantego. Okay. What else? Jolynn, you want to go next? Jolynn, you're up.
Hi everybody, I'm Jolynn Hausman, and I'm a trustee on the Keller ISD School Board. I'm hoping that everybody had a chance to look at your emails this afternoon from Julie McCarty. If not, please make it a priority when you go home tonight to do that. We really need your attendance Thursday night at the Keller School Board meeting. Doesn't matter if you have children in the district, doesn't matter if you homeschool, doesn't matter what you do, where you live, anything. The more bodies we can have there opposing this policy change, the more of an opportunity we're going to have to hopefully change the mind of those that are planning to vote on this. I know that our superintendent supports it, and I know right now, absolutely, we do have at least 4 of the other trustees that are there to support it. One of them's kind of on the fence, we're not sure about. So anyway, we need you Thursday night. If you have a pencil, please get it out or get your phone out, write this address down. It's 350 Keller Parkway, and that is in Keller. If you would like to talk at the meeting, it is first come, first serve. They're only allowing 10 people total. When you sign in, you're going to sign in under pro or con. We are con. I hope everybody is. And so that means there's only going to be about 10 people that are going to get to speak. And we already have 3 that I know that are definitely going to be there probably at lunchtime to make sure they get on the list. So if anybody else has anything to say, please be sure to be there by 5:30 anyway. We do gavel in at 5:50, but the meeting actually starts at 6:30 after our executive session. Thank you so much. All your prayers appreciated. And I do want to take this opportunity to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I can't thank you enough for the support, the prayers, the encouragement I've had over the last year. I had a rough and tough start, learned the hard way a few things, but I tell you what, God has given me a lot of strength, a lot of fighting power, and we're just getting started. I'm having a town hall meeting myself at Spring Creek Barbecue on August 24th at 7 o'clock there in Keller on Main Street. Alice Linehan will also be there, as well as Brad Schofield, who is our other conservative board member. Thank you very much, and God bless each and every one of you. Yes, sir. Outside, if you want to bring signs, please do. We are hoping to have a minimum of 100 people there against this Thursday night. I met with Representative Matt Krause this morning, and he was telling me, he said, if you have 100 people showing up, I can't imagine anybody voting in favor of this thing. So, but we do have 2 of the people that are the strongest ones voting all these liberal agendas that are going to be on the ballot next May, and they're going to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Jolynn. Y'all understand what she's talking about, right? You got the email. You know what a mess this is. I don't know that she really said, but it's in Keller ISD. They are looking at changing the discrimination rules for the gays and lesbians and trans, you know, the bathroom issues and all that kind of stuff, giving special things. So it needs to be stopped before it spreads to all of Northeast Tarrant. So even if you don't go to Keller ISD, it's important that you show up at these meetings, okay? Okay, next we're going to hear from Aaron Harris. He's with Direct Action Texas, but he's got a word of encouragement for us.
Thank you, Julie. So everybody that's here, if you're part of Northeast Tarrant Tea Party, then you're aware of the local debt crisis we have in Texas. Kind of the 2 go hand in hand, right? Tea Party, we know about that. And so if you were paying attention, you saw last week we had a big, really win for the movement. It's a temporary one, but it's a big win. And many of you in this room are to credit for that. I see Faith in the back and others that were there. And I want to congratulate everybody. I want you guys to really clap for yourselves, because y'all did a good job. Everybody in this room. But I want to also encourage you in why we had this temporary victory. And here's why I mean temporary victory. For those of you that don't know what transpired, the county commissioners along with the hospital board proposed an $809 million bond. And they tried to put it on the ballot without anybody having any input. And they have a common technique where they hold these town halls before anybody knows about it. And then when somebody speaks up, they send out a letter to the Republican Party and others saying, well, nobody showed up for our town hall. And they made the mistake of doing that this time. I say mistake, honest. They were actually honest about it. And were able to catch it in time. And Faith and others, and Julie, and our organization and others put out a rallying cry. And 2 days later, 150 people showed up to the town hall in Arlington. And then the following night, another 150 showed up to the one in Mansfield. And last week, we were able to deliver, with Empower Texans, delivered 650 plus petitions to the county commissioners at the county commissioner court last Tuesday. And because of, as they put it, recent developments in the bond, which is their lingo for community involvement, they postponed the bond till at least November of 2016. So congratulations to everybody that got involved. So my encouragement to everybody here is this: we can make a difference. And what made a difference on this one was that we got involved early. We got involved in the process before it got on the ballot. We got involved when the conversation was still maturing. It was still a new conversation. And that's when we can have the biggest impact. Unfortunately, it's also sometimes hard for us to get involved so early because the care meter still hasn't moved, right? So I want to take this opportunity to encourage you to get involved in these issues early, because this was a very real example of the difference we can make when we do so. So congratulations, everybody, and thank you for your time.
Okay, I have two quick announcements. First of all, who was at Shark Tank? Oh, look at that. I love it. Okay, we're going to do another one, okay? It's going to be on October 10th. So we haven't sent out the invitation and announcement or anything yet, but you'll be seeing that soon. But go ahead and mark your calendars for October 10th. Start setting aside your money for donating to, I think we have another 12, 13 candidates, something like that coming. So we are going to change it up a little bit. We got a lot of feedback, positive and negative on the last one. A lot of positive, 1 or 2 negatives. We're going to shorten it per candidate this time, that sort of thing. So it'll be fantastic. You won't want to miss it. The other thing I want to announce is that, has anybody here ever heard of Jonathan Stickland? Well, he's got a money bomb on, is it Friday? Friday, yeah. Okay, so his goal is $50,000. It'll be tripled. So if you give $1, you're really giving $3. So make sure that you look for that on Facebook, or he sends out an email, it's on his website, whatever. Make sure you donate now, because if you wait until December or whenever all the campaigning really kicks in, it will be tripled. So, be smart with your money. That's what we're here for. So go ahead and donate to that. Do we have any candidates in the audience? If you are a candidate and would like to introduce yourself, why don't you come line up right here, and I'll give you a chance to do that. I know there's a bunch of you, because I saw like suits walking in the door. So, yeah, come on up.
Thank you, Julie. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Tim O'Hare, and I'm running for Tarrant County GOP Chairman. The county chair race is a race that frequently flies under the radar. And let me tell you, it is incredibly important. In Dallas County, they stopped paying attention. They stopped fighting, they stopped organizing, and you know what happened? Democrats took the county over. Tarrant County is way too important to our state and to our nation to let that happen. If you elect me to the county chair position, I will give everything I have to make sure not only Tarrant County stays red, but becomes even redder. And that is important. 2 other things, and then I'll sit down. You will always know, if I'm the county chairman, that the Tea Party will have a voice in county politics and at the county headquarters. You can count on that. And finally, I'm hosting this week the Mark Davis Show, at least Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we are going to talk about the Keller ISD nonsense, and you can count on that. And that's going to be tomorrow or Wednesday. We will definitely do it before the actual vote. But we would love to have you call in and talk about it and show up to that. That's incredibly important. We got to stop that before exactly it goes around. So thank you.
I'm David Wiley, and I'm the other guy in the race for the Tarrant County Chairman. I've been the precinct chair all my life, since I was about 25, and as you can tell, that's over half. Working in Tarrant County with these issues such as what Aaron brought to your attention. One point I'd like to add to what Aaron had to say is that back in June, we had one of our county commissioners who was brave enough to buck the system and come out and gather together the activists. And Tim was in the meeting, I was in the meeting, and a few other folks were. He gave us the inside information, told us go out there and raise some ruckus. And pretty much that's what we did. We went out there, we got it going, ground troops out there. It was slow to start, but once we got you guys involved and Julie sent out that email, it just exploded. And I thank you so much for making things work the way that they're supposed to work. And if we keep our thumb on this, that's $809 million that your kids are not going to have to pay back. They're going to have that available for other things. That's the future. That's what we've got to watch out for. That's why we come to these meetings. And I would appreciate your vote so we can keep Tarrant strong. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Patricia Baca-Bennett. I am running for the 360th Judicial District Court. That is a Tarrant County-wide seat. It is a family court. I have been licensed to practice law in Texas for 21 years. I am board certified by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization in Family Law. Only about 10% of attorneys in the state of Texas go through that process because it's an arduous process. You have to be recommended by your colleagues and judges and have to take special testing and extra education in order to stay at that level. I am a lifelong conservative. I have walked the blocks, knocked on the doors, and I am committed to keeping Tarrant County red, and I'm also committed to the rule of law. I'm committed to making sure that judges follow the law, they don't make up the law as they go along. I think that is very important, especially in a court that's dealing with families. There needs to be consistency, there needs to be a respect for the rule of law, and there needs to be a respect for the litigants. And I would like to ask for your support. And again, my name is Patricia Baca-Bennett, and I'm running for the 360th Judicial District Court in Tarrant County, Texas. Thank you.
Okay, how many people are from Arlington? Hi, Becker. My name is Kelly Cannon, and I've got a very, very healthy early start to my campaign, which is going to be in May, May of 2016. And something very miraculous happened just this last Tuesday in Arlington, equal to the JPS bond reconsideration, I'll call it. They were kicking around the idea of raising our sales tax by $0.25 to pay for something that wasn't even in existence yet, not even in real hardcore paper. A nebulous senior citizen, I called it a government subsidized country club for seniors. Anyway, they reconsidered it, and they are not going to put that on our next ballot in November. And my opponent in District 1 was none too happy about that, because that was going to be his little pet project, which meant raising all of our sales tax to pay for a finite number of citizens to have their little playground. I love seniors, I technically am one, and I didn't relish that too well, so my opponent isn't happy, which obviously makes me happy, and my donations went up just a little bit as a result, because it was a really equally great night on last Tuesday for Arlington. Anyway, if you know anybody on the northern part of Arlington, which is north of Division, That's District 1, and I'm running against Charlie Parker, and my name is Kelly Cannon, and if you'll remember, I was the one, along with Faith Bussey, who took away the red light cameras in Arlington. Thank you. And I couldn't draw a more clearer contrast in the fact that my opponent was its biggest cheerleader of the red light cameras. So help me spread the word for anyone in North Arlington. I've got a better plan. So, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's my honor to get to introduce our guest speaker tonight. One of the things I've loved about these meetings is that we get to meet a lot of Texas heroes. And Wallace Hall is one of my heroes. I've been following his story now for at least 2 years or more. And when I spoke to him tonight, I realized it's been going on for about 4 years, 4.5 years. He's 4.5 years into his 6-year term, appointed to the University of Texas System Board of Regents. And I won't go through the whole biography, you read that, or you wouldn't be here tonight. He's quite a hero. I asked him, how did he stumble upon this issue? And so we'll learn part of that when he speaks to us tonight. So give him a warm welcome. He's from my hometown next door in Dallas. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here this afternoon. Julie, thank you for the invitation. And I must admit, before I begin my prepared comments, I want to say there hasn't been a lot to be optimistic about over the last 4.5 years in dealing with politics of Austin. But I will say that the reputation of this Tea Party group is fantastic. And the idea that I'll be able to come out here on a 105-degree August afternoon, evening, and participate is a testament to that. So thank you. Really appreciate it. In preparing for my comments today, I drew from many of my experiences as a UT Regent. As a result, I've chosen the following topics. First, a brief overview of what I thought I was going to be doing as a Regent, what I actually ended up doing, and then the attacks that ensued. Second, thoughts on who is to blame for the failures of public higher education, not only in Texas but nationally. And finally, additional thoughts on the political culture in Texas that has led to our problems and what you can do about it. In February of 2011, I was appointed as a member of the University of Texas System Board of Regents. We are a group of 9 unelected citizen volunteers appointed by the governor, reviewed by a state Senate nominating committee, and confirmed by a vote of the full Senate. We are responsible for leading our UT institutions. This includes setting goals for their futures and ensuring every policy and program is properly aligned to meet those goals. We are also fiduciaries, the ultimate authorities for the institutions with a sworn duty to uphold the laws of Texas and the Constitution. Being a regent is a significant responsibility that should be taken very serious by every one of us who has been selected to serve. To put it another way, it is not sufficient to treat the role of regent as an honorary post or as a reward for past or future political contributions. The position imposes a solemn duty and, if treated properly, demands a large commitment of time and effort and a deep sense of obligation to the people of Texas. Why should anyone care about the responsibilities of university regents? First, because of the enormous amount of sums of money under our authority, $15 billion annually in the case of the UT system. Second, because we have over 200,000 students in our universities, and the potential for these institutions to influence and mold our young people cannot be underestimated. Third, our institutions are pursuing cures and treatments for cancer and Alzheimer's and other terrible diseases, all while educating and training large numbers of our new doctors and nurses for our state. So it is critical that the funding under our direction is not wasted, that assets are properly deployed and utilized, and above all, that integrity in the operations of our institutions is assured. In short, it is critical that we manage a very tight ship so we fulfill our obligations to the people of Texas, the true owners and beneficiaries of these great institutions. It is for these reasons that I ask questions, lots and lots of questions, and pursue lines of inquiry that others have found very uncomfortable. The problem is, this approach has meant that my 4.5 years as a regent have been anything but smooth. My efforts to fulfill my obligations to you and the UT system have been met with opposition from powerful forces who want to maintain the status quo and place their special relationships, particularly with UT Austin, above the interest of taxpayers, faculty, and students. What vile acts did I commit to earn the contempt of these powerful politicians? Let me cite a few of my most egregious inquiries. I insisted on the consistent application of national accounting standards for county gifts to our flagship university. In this case, the UT Austin president knowingly and falsely inflated the value of gifts received by over $200 million. While my insistence led to corrections, no admission of impropriety or contrition followed, only outrage from the president and his close supporters. I followed up on demands to terminate a secret and inappropriate forgivable loan program run by the Dean of the UT Law School and President Powers. In this case, millions of dollars were being funneled secretly to certain faculty members, all in violation of policy and law. This included a $500,000 payment to the former Dean of the law school. The program has since been abolished and the law school is now in compliance with our policies and law. I sought proper compliance with the Texas Public Information Act. What does this mean? It means that our institutions should comply when public citizens ask for information about their institutions. Incredibly, 3 years after this effort has begun, the project remains a work in progress. I looked into procurement irregularities related to no-bid contracts and conflicts of interest. Over a year prior to the Health and Human Services contracting scandal was uncovered, we had already uncovered similar procurement problems resulting in a system-wide review to improve our transparency and efficiency and reduce conflicts of interest. And finally, I also demanded more answers about admissions improprieties and influence peddling involving the former president of UT Austin. You may all know where this has taken us. Conducting a secretive backdoor admissions practice is fundamentally dishonest. To justify its existence by claiming everyone does it is cynical and indefensible. Should we buy the line that aberrations in admissions is a national condition and part of the fabric in our universities? Or should we insist that this kind of corruption not be tolerated in Texas? The most prominent attempt to stop me was in the form of a campaign by House Speaker Joe Strauss to impeach me. He was assisted by the former chair of the House Appropriations Committee, Jim Pitts, and Dan Branch, the former chair of Higher Ed, and more recently a failed candidate for Texas Attorney General. The so-called Transparency Committee on System Operations, aka the Ministry of Magic, failed to impeach me, of course, or to land any blow at all. They voted to censure me. Many on this committee have felt and will feel this group's true censure at the ballot box. Worse, when they failed to impeach me because their claims were absurd, the same elected officials who were supposed to help me look out for your interest attempted to convince the Travis County grand jury to indict me. Sound familiar? Since when should differences of opinion on matters of higher ed governance lead Speaker Strauss to drum up criminal charges against trustees? Here is my bottom line. Accountability in our public institutions demands rigorous oversight by board members. In universities, improving graduation rates, raising the quality of the educational experience, lowering cost, improving access, and reducing student debt loads are worthy goals and formidable. That means we must be able to identify and remove barriers that prevent our success. But there is more. If higher ed is to evolve, and if we are to ensure our institutions can compete successfully to educate our young people and conduct valued research for societal benefit, the boards at higher education institutions must be allowed to take risks. The previous UT Austin administration was able to construct a phalanx of defenders, including politicians, supporters, media reporters, and editors, and even a new Orwellian named Texas Coalition for Excellence in Higher Education. They engineered a no man's land for inquiry and challenge by the board. Common board duties like asking if tenured faculty were performing at expected levels and whether they were maintaining state mandated hours resulted in aggressive attacks designed to chill further inquiry. Board questions relating to appropriate campus size, student tuition fees, institutional efficiency, faculty productivity, and proper deployment of research funding resulted in malicious charges that the regents asking were anti-intellectual and anti-research. Here's the problem. Forbes recently ranked UT Austin number 82 among higher education institutions in the nation. For much of the past 10 years, we have languished, unable to challenge our status quo because some relationships between politicians and our institutional leaders have led to an inability of our board to effectively perform its duty. So while I could highlight a number of challenges facing higher ed, I contend that the single most important challenge is the systemic failure of governing boards. While many critics are quick to blame the universities themselves for the most obvious higher ed challenges, they should look more closely at the men and women who occupy university boards. These are the governing bodies tasked by law to oversee and manage the institutions. We will never achieve significant gains if they are prevented through intimidation, coercion, or influence peddling from performing their duties. For example, shouldn't our board be asking these questions? What benefit did the politicians who requested admissions favors at UT receive through their special relationship with the UT president? Are these same politicians still engaging in the same behavior? Where else can a dean of a prestigious graduate program secretly award himself $500,000 from Allied Foundation during a pay freeze at the university? Where else would this be met with silence by the president and the board? What other institution would maintain this dean as one of the highest paid members of the faculty? How can a president of the University of Texas mislead the board, the chancellor, and our general counsel during an investigation of influence peddling within his office and receive no disciplinary action? What are the circumstances by which he is allowed to return to the law school as the highest paid member of its faculty? Who is looking into these matters for the people of Texas? I'll tell you, no one. Well, not no one, I am, but what difference does it make? The most insidious result of political influence peddling is severely limited oversight because regents are either too intimidated or disinterested to perform their regental duties. This is made worse when board members see it as their duty to block honest inquiry because they fear exposing friends and/or politicians. It is one thing for board members to sit by while others ask uncomfortable questions, or in other words, perform their duties. It is something else for board members to encourage opposition to other board members who ask uncomfortable questions. Unfortunately, this is what has taken place in our board. Our board leadership consistently has pushed for more and more rule changes that restrict, if not make impossible, efforts by regents who want to obtain information. Under their new rules, they must say okay before I or any minority of regents can get answers to important questions. This creates a gross abrogation of regent duties and puts us in positions of failing to comply with the law. For example, under the new rules, I am denied access to important information about the admissions problems at UT that I need to render informed decisions. Instead, I can only rely on spoon-fed, redacted, and narrow information that's selected for me by employees over whom I'm supposed to have oversight. This is flat-out poor governance. Worse, it puts every regent in an untenable position. What will happen if further abuses we should have known about are one day revealed? Why are we not digging deep into areas of concern to correct known problems while they are still manageable? What I have learned well through my efforts to improve and care for UT institutions is that opacity is our enemy. If there is no transparency, there can be no accountability. That means government institutions without transparency do not answer to the people. In fact, they can't. And we all know what that means. Will we one day add UT to the list of institutions corrupted by our government leaders? Fast and Furious, IRS targeting of private citizens, Lois Lerner's missing emails and hard drives, Hillary Clinton's missing emails and hidden email server, the Benghazi cover-up. Why is there no accountability? Why do we tolerate this? The answer is we cannot tolerate lack of accountability in Texas. Let me tell you why. As a region, I sometimes have access to information that I cannot share. Fair enough. But if you had the same information, UT would not be able to resist needed reforms. I apply this same view to every other institution that fails to meet its stated goals or levels charges at reformers. Consider. Representative Jonathan Stickland is the subject of yet another special committee investigation by House leaders who accuse him of somehow helping constituents register their views on his legislation to eliminate traffic stoplight cameras. They won't tell him what law or rule he supposedly broke, but have dispatched the Texas Rangers to interrogate his staff and even track down voters around Texas who registered in favor of his bill, a clear violation of their constitutional right to petition the government. Michael Sullivan has been pursued relentlessly by the Texas Ethics Commission because House leaders are demanding that he tell them who his members are. Never mind that the Constitution makes clear he does not have to. They plan to make him pay as much as possible for the privilege of exercising his First Amendment rights. Former Governor Perry has reportedly spent millions of dollars defending against charges by the Travis County DA that he somehow engaged in corruption by first telling the DA he would veto legislation for her office and then doing it. And now, perhaps worst of all, after failed attempts in 2 other counties, prosecutors got a grand jury to indict Attorney General Ken Paxton because he supposedly convinced Representative Byron Cook to invest in a company without telling him he was not an investor. You heard that right, yet another new and bizarre legal theory. What do these efforts to make criminals out of our most outstanding citizens have in common? Every one of these actions was initiated by Speaker Joe Strauss or his allies, including Dan Branch, Joe Pickett, Jim Pitts, and Byron Cook. Join me in one simple act when you leave here tonight. Pay attention as these cases unfold to learn about who is behind them. You will not be surprised that it is many of the same individuals who came after me. And you won't be surprised when none of the individuals they targeted is convicted of any crime, just like me. Politicians in positions of leadership should be held to the highest standards of all, since they are the ones who wield the greatest power and are best positioned to abuse their offices. Most politicians exhibit an extreme dichotomy between telling people what they want to hear versus doing what they want. In economic terms, this is called declared preferences versus revealed preferences. So don't just listen to what they say, but watch what they do. Common sense, right? As an example, take Representative Stickland or Senator Connie Burton. There is no sunlight between what they tell their constituents they will do and what actions follow. By comparison, Representative Capriglione told you what he would do with his first vote in the last session. Then what happened? While politicians who make promises and then fail to follow through defraud their constituents, politicians who use their offices in our government to persecute their political opponents assault everyone. Both groups should be held accountable. In the cases of Dan Branch and Representative Pitts, who abused their positions to try to stop me, the voters spoke, or in the case of Pitts, he ran. In the case of Byron Cook, who is apparently attempting to carry out a vendetta against the Attorney General, the voters will speak again, although he too will probably run before they get a chance. When politicians are more interested in what institutions can do for them than what they can do for the people of Texas, we are left with divisiveness, inefficiency, and enduring conflicts of interest. Removing influence peddling and corrupt politicians is difficult, and while many of us gnash our teeth waiting for the cavalry to arrive, well, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, they're not coming. The cavalry is you. Thank you very much.
We're not letting off that easy. We're going to have a little conversation here, if that's all right with y'all. And what we want to do is I'm going to just ask some questions of Wallace here, a good friend of mine, and then we're going to open it up to you guys as well. so that you can get your questions answered. So go ahead and start thinking about that. The first question I wanted to ask you, Wallace, is why did you decide to ruin your life and accept the appointment by Governor Rick Perry? And but seriously, when he came to you and said, "I want to pick you for this job," what did he tell you about it, and why did you accept?
Thank you. It was a huge honor to be asked to serve by Governor Perry as a regent. I thought what would the opportunity be to devote 6 years of your life in an effort to make changes and positive improvements to something. And the UT system opportunity I thought was unique because we only have 9 regents. So myself plus 4 others, we have a majority, and you would think that with those numbers you could get a lot done. I was wrong. We have gotten a lot done, but we haven't been able to deal with some of the major issues that are necessary to really help us all. But Governor Perry, basically, he was very simple. He didn't pretend to know, the specifics of why the problems existed, but he was very insistent that this was student debt loads were too high, the cost of education was too high, we needed more accessibility, and he wanted higher quality. He wanted us to be efficient with our funds and better managed. And he didn't try to tell us how to do it, but he wanted it done. And he wanted to promise that we would be independent and not bend to the pressures that would undoubtedly come our way. So it was a huge opportunity, I think, and it was the best opportunity I figured I would ever receive to give something back to my state and hopefully put us in a better place in the future than we are now. I have children, so it means a lot to me.
And did you know, I mean, obviously there were some things that you wanted to fix, but did you have any idea that you would get in there and see what you ended up seeing when you first got in?
No, I came in with a completely open mind, and by nature I asked a lot of questions. I mean, I think that's how most people learn, by asking questions. And you can choose to sit there and be fed what other people want you to read and to learn, or you can ask questions and bring all your personal life experiences to the table. We all have different backgrounds. And so I started focusing on the things that I thought were important. What I found was that I would focus on them, but then I really didn't get to vote on them. We didn't even get to talk about it. And so I turned my attention to, well, why can't we as a board, why can't we as individuals who have fiduciary duties, why can't we do our job? And so I began looking for the barriers that prevented us from making progress. And all these things, for the most part, they came to Albany. I mean, whether or not it was the law school, something that happened and came to us, everybody got the information. But I would continue to ask questions, and I insisted on having good answers. Same thing with most of these issues. They would come even to the public, and I would ask questions because that's my role to make sure we get to the bottom of it. And finally, at the end, once I figured out why we couldn't really participate fully as fiduciaries, I had to turn my attention to the big pink building, the Capitol, and it became pretty obvious what was taking place and why we were being attacked so harshly.
One of the things that I've experienced in the legislature that you've kind of talked about was that, when I went down there, I thought we were going to have honest discussions, have honest debates about different issues, and I was kind of under the illusion that I would be able to go down there and convince these people they've just been wrong. And look, I'm bringing you a new message. Fact is, they knew the message, they just reject conservative principles. Who were the players down there who said, this isn't your job, you shouldn't be worrying about this, we're not going to take a vote on it, or we're not going to bring it up, or we don't want to hear the research? Did you have any allies down there originally or anywhere through the process? Did you have any friends at all?
I have a few friends. We had Chairman Gene Powell, who rolled off the board this year, was terrific. He was steadfast, he was resolute. He allowed the Regents to do their jobs. And Brenda Payovich and Alex Granberg came on in my same class, and they've been terrific. So I'll stick with they've been real stewards and fiduciaries that y'all can be proud of.
So was most of the pressure, the walls that went up around you, was from the legislature or from special interests? Is that what you would say?
Yes, so basically the pressure came from the politicians. I mean, I had no idea how this system worked, but you know, we put in our request for information and meetings, and when we did that, much of it had to do with our flagship, because it's our flagship, right? And it's a super important institution of the state, and when the information got over to the university somehow would let a few politicians know, and if you asked about the wrong topic, if you even touched it, it was like a third rail. You know, there would be an article that would show up in the San Antonio Express or the Statesman or Senator Zafrin. You would make some, condescending comment to the press about how this group is anti-intellectual or whatever. And so there was a fight that was going on that I didn't even understand that had started. I'm asking questions and then we're getting smacked, and it always seemed over the top. I never could understand. I mean, you would think, and I know you would be excited if we found extra money in the university and eliminated waste and increased access and quality, but this group didn't seem to have any interest in us playing in the sandbox at all.
And that was, from the other side, I will tell you that it was funny to me to see all of a sudden people, like you said, Senator Zaffarini, who I kind of viewed as very quiet in the process, not really out there. All of a sudden, you had certain individuals in the legislature who were right on top of this. I mean, like sitting at their desk, pushing their button, but not much more. All of a sudden, we're just instantly amped up over something that we didn't understand. I remember when it went down, but I just wanted to share a quick story with you guys about the UT flagship that I experienced. And do any of y'all remember the talk I gave about, it was a number of years ago, where I talked about how they try and pull you away from your supporters and how the establishment tries to flip you around and influence the process. In the first week of us getting down to Austin in my freshman session, UT came out and paid for an incredible hotel spread for a conference for every legislator. And I actually did not go because I didn't want to have to report it as receiving a gift, but it was free football tickets, it was t-shirts, hats. I mean, it was just unbelievable amount of stuff. And, not having gone to UT or, finishing a four-year university myself, it was all kind of new to me. But it was amazing to me the amount of people who that was their one issue. They didn't care about anything else, but it was like, we have got to protect this institution for whatever reason. And then you come along and start asking some questions, and we start to see why certain individuals would be more invested about keeping business as usual. But did you know that they were going to come out? Because originally when Chairman Pitts came out with this stuff, did you know that was going to happen before it did? Did you have any heads up? Because I'll be honest, like they kept it completely away from Jonathan Sticklin that they were going to try anything legislatively like they did.
The first time that the whole impeachment, came to my attention or the public's attention was when Dan Branch, as chair of higher ed in the House, went on the record saying that he had asked his staff to look into what the process is for impeachment, and I was like, wow, really? But I just kept asking questions because it was very obvious that the effort was in an attempt to chill us from doing our job. And either I quit, because I can't do my job, or I'm going to keep going. And I took a sworn oath, and so I decided to keep going. And then there was a period of time in the spring of 13 where the North, it was just such an outsized reaction to asking questions about good governance, about management, that I couldn't quite get my head around it. And then I think there was a point in time where I kind of figured out how admissions worked. And there had been, and I don't know how much you want me to go into this, but the demand for admissions at UT Austin in real and nominal terms have gone up tremendously since 1998. We've got the top 10% rule. The class is approximately 7,200 students. 75% gets filled from top 10% or automatic admits. 10% is from out of state, international. And so you've got 12, 15, 17%, depending on the year, that actually is discretionary. And our state's grown. The price of private institutions and out-of-state higher ed university costs have gone through the roof. And so, University of Texas is a bargain relative to a lot of these, and it became extremely valuable. And so I kind of focused in on the idea that, well, maybe this admissions is the thing. And so I decided to exercise my right as a private citizen. I used the Texas Information Act, and I made a request to get the letters and communications by and between President Powers and his office and any politicians over the last 4 years or 5 years. And you would have thought I'd set off an atomic explosion, and it was within 3 weeks that they had begun the impeachment.
I mean, they accused you of attacking the university. That was one of the themes that I heard over and over. Oh, he's just attacking the university. He's here to tear it down. He's here to make us look bad. Can you address that accusation?
Well, it's all a matter of perspective. If any organization, if you worry only about your reputation and you don't deal with the underlying issues of integrity, then your reputation will soon follow. This is a big school. It's a big organization.
It's at $15 billion, right?
Well, the system
Yes.
is UT Austin is $2.5 billion in annual operating expenses. But for me to want to ask a question about why is it we have 24,000 employees for 50,000 students? Why is that? And I still don't know the answer to that. 24,000 employees. But the fact of me trying to do my job and improve efficiency, and then the other side makes a big deal about it and gets a bunch of public attention brought to it, that's not me making us look bad. That's them making us look bad for other reasons. And so I just completely dismiss that.
So would it be fair to say that, you weren't going out specifically targeting certain legislators to try and find something that may or not be there? You started to figure stuff out just based on the reaction that you got off of simple requests that didn't even start there. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's never been any attacks on any legislature or specific person. This is a systemic failure of management, and we just need to get it fixed. And we need to bring the integrity back to the process so the people of Texas and the applicants and the kids know when they apply that it's a fair point. It's a level playing field. It's very simple.
And when the impeachment stuff came through, can you talk a little bit about the offer that Speaker Strauss made to you to drop the charges? Can you talk about that?
Sure. Now, in all candor, he denies that he made it, but it was very clear to me. I came out of a meeting in Austin, and my phone had gone off, and I called back, and it was Governor Perry's chief of staff. And the Transparency Committee's report, the Rusty Hardin report, was pending but not yet submitted. And she called me and called her back, and she said, "Listen, I just got to tell you what happened." And this on a Friday afternoon, and Joe Strauss had walked over, taken it upon himself to walk over to the governor's office, and he was in Australia and met with the chief of staff and basically said, "Hey, I've reviewed the report. I've got an advanced copy. There's 7 reasons in impeachable offenses, if you will. 3 are criminal, 2 of those are misdemeanor, and 1 is a felony. And, I thought that the governor should know. And he left, and then within the hour, his chief of staff, I believe his last name is Jesse Ann Sarah.
Correct.
Called her back.
Great guy.
Called her back and said, basically, we can make this go away if the governor will just make him resign. And she said, well, he's not going to ask him to resign. And so that was the conversation she related, and I said, I would like you to thank the governor very much for his continuing support, and you can tell the governor, and you can tell Speaker Joe Strauss that I'm not going to resign. And I just thought it was deplorable. I mean, the idea that they would hang a false accusation over my head in an effort to coerce me to leave the board, and coerce the governor, for that matter, to ask me to step down, I thought that was terrible.
Yeah. And Governor Perry stuck through you and what you were trying to do through this entire process.
Yeah, Governor Perry has been he's been a stalwart and extremely
on this issue.
He's been all my experience about any politician that I mentioned today are my personal interactions, if you will. And Governor Perry, at no political advantage to himself, at great cost actually, continued to support me, and support my efforts at doing the right thing to help the University of Texas, and to improve the system all the way through. And I thought it was a real sign of his character.
What can you tell us about the Kroll report, the investigation, and what actually came of that that has now made it into the public?
So I don't know how much y'all know actually about the Kroll report, but we had, so when I made that information request for the letters between the president's office and the politicians, I believe I got 88 actual physical letters that existed at the time. And based on those letters, we had an internal review of admissions at UT Austin. And that was led by our general counsel at the system. And that went on for a number of months. And ultimately it came out and it showed that if you had a letter from one of these politicians, if you had one of these letters, then you had somewhere close to 300% greater odds of getting in than if you were just part of the general public. That's the 300% is pretty big. At the University of Illinois, they had an 8% differential when they had their scandal, and virtually the whole board and the president had to resign. Here, nothing happened after that, and I was appalled. I made my case. I didn't get any movement from our chairman, and so it languished. And then if it were not for the courage of one whistleblower who came through the door and who said, basically, he's right, but it's worse than you think. Based on that, Chancellor Cigaroa, our former chancellor, showed incredible courage, and it was his and his alone. It was his call. Ordered a separate independent investigation. We had that investigation. It went on from, let's say, August through January, and the report came, and it found that the president and his chief of staff had misled us, misled the people, misled the general counsel, and that abuses have taken place. And but the irony of it is our board never got to speak to the investigators. We paid your money, $400,000 for this report, but we never got to speak to the investigators. We never got to ask any questions. And the board, if you can go back and look at the record, the board has never publicly, really even private, not even privately, had either discussed the Kroll report, discussed the admissions scandal. We never talked about it. And I don't know, if we don't talk about that, what do we talk about? I mean, that's important.
What are you talking about right now? I mean, what are they saying is more important? I mean, we're joking about it, but I'm serious.
Yeah, it's not that anything's more important. We have this habit of This goes back to the accountability. I don't know how you can have accountability unless somebody pays some meaningful price for bad behavior. And we have this desire not to embarrass one of our universities. And so what we do is we say we fix it and we move on. And we cheer about it. You know, we're moved on, we're great again. But we don't, you know, if you don't deal with the underlying, you know, rot, it just doesn't go away.
And now, you kind of touched on this, but I think this problem is bigger than just this specific problem, and that's this whole idea of an internal investigation. Can you talk about the problems with that? I mean, we got lucky that someone had courage and brought in on the Kroll investigation, but talk about internal investigations in general.
Sure.
If you will.
Yeah, and by the way, just because the whistleblower came in, you know, as I said, I tip of the hat to Chancellor Cigarello because he had the courage to order the investigation, which was very unpopular among those that were against this, you know, changing the status quo. You know, the university, I went to the University of Texas. I've got kids there, my wife went there. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time in recent years caring for the university and continue to do so. But the reality of it is we are a government agency. The University of Texas is part of a government agency. And there is, and people can dispute that and say it's not true, but you know, I've talked to enough people that say it is. There is a climate of fear within maybe all government agencies to where people are afraid to bring wrongdoing forward. They're afraid to say, you know, this person or that person is doing something that's illegal because there's absolutely no upside in it for them. You know, there's no great trustworthy system in place that allows that to happen. And so what's happened is I get calls, I get anonymous letters frequently from people coming to me asking me to help because they think that I'll be willing to look into it. And I am. I mean, people bring me concerns, they do. But long story short is, I think to a certain extent, it's futile for us to effectively investigate ourselves, just like it has proven futile for, you know, some of the Benghazi issue, if you will. You know, so I've discussed this with you privately. I mean, I think there's a genuine need for an inspector general role at the UT system to where we have an independent, authorized, empowered person or persons who can help us hold ourselves accountable, because I have not been impressed.
We're going to start taking some questions from the audience, if you guys have any, but I want to tell you something real quick. We kind of had a joke going back and forth down in Austin this last session of which person does the media and the establishment hate more this week, and it kept going back and forth between me and you. No, they definitely hate you more right now, but that was good. Questions from the audience? Yes, right here. So the question is, can you tell us who the bad guys are so we can attack them on social media? Valid?
I think Jonathan knows who they are.
I'll tell you.
I think you can tell.
In fact, there's a gentleman that will help us take care of this problem. If you haven't met Beau French back here, can you stand up, Beau? There's a guy that needs to know if you don't know him right now. Yes, sir. Right here.
Are you still a regent?
Are you still a regent?
I am a regent until February of 17. I've got a little better. That'll go by.
Real quick, would you do it again? Oh, yes, sir.
Is there any reason why they could turn down a Freedom of Information request for that Kroll report?
Well, not only can there's ongoing litigation on that right now from the press who's trying to get it. And, and
I will tell you this too, from a legislative standpoint, there have been a number of us who have asked to see different areas of it. And the amount of, some of it has been disclosed to a certain senator who's looked at it a lot. But I will tell you, they are making people sign all kinds of confidentiality agreements, and you will never speak of this, you will never do anything off of it. So there's been a lot of legal games back and forth, even with members of the legislature that are supposed to have special privileges on state agencies that have still not felt like, there's many of us who feel like we still haven't gotten everything we need.
All right, final question. The three people who you said supported you, why didn't they go after them? Why didn't they pick you? And why did these people stand up and get up on their hind legs and really make noise?
My dad said it maybe because I'm not very smart, and so they went after me instead. But I think it was just the questions that I asked. I mean, these other three people, they voted right on the right issues. They were supportive. The chairman in particular, who had authority to make sure I had access. And but I was the one that made the request for these communications between the politicians and the president, and that was a mistake in their eyes. And so they came after me to make an example of me.
And let me say this too, typically the establishment that I've seen work in that they don't have the winning message, okay? To go out there and try and sell to the public that, hey, this guy's a bad guy because he asked questions and wanted some answers, that doesn't sell. So what they typically do, the establishment from my experience has been, they focus on who they consider the ringleader and they try and punish him to discourage anyone else that's supportive from behind. That's why they came after me and Matt Schaefer in the last election. That's why they're coming after Molly White and Matt Rinaldi in this election. And so they typically, because they don't have the winning message, will zero in on one target, try and take them out to discourage anyone else that's supportive behind.
People like Jonathan or Connie, they self-identify. They show up, they raise their hand, they ask questions, and then they want legitimate, truthful answers. And that's the self-identification. And then the crowd who moves with the establishment will move away from them. And then there's a process. I mean, it's just like a playbook. Then they go after them, they attack them, they tear them down, ridicule them. And so that's how it works.
Real quick, Deborah, and let's get rapid fire here.
Okay. First, thank you for your service. Governor Perry appointed me to the State Bar Board of Directors. So I have a healthy respect for attorneys, even though I'm not one. But one thing I noticed from this event tonight is Jonathan, yourself, Connie, we have Tony Tinderholt. None of them are attorneys. We are seeing our politicians that are attorneys going after people to destroy them. And I think that's something we should consider in 2016. More people like Jonathan, more people like Connie that are not going to do this. And being from Arlington, having people told to sit down and shut up and not answer and not ask questions is becoming a problem, and I think we should stop it.
No more lawyers. Steve?
Just out of frustration, I called the Texas Exodus I'm alone and trying to get them to put pressure on power to leave. Got sandbagged completely, and I thought the KBA should be a little bit more reasonable, but she's fully in their camp. Do you have any other pressure points we as alum and citizens can have on them disclosing and restricting?
Is there anything that they can do out there to help support you?
As I said at the beginning, it's been discouraging, but as complicated and as questions on higher ed and whatever else is out there on funding issues, and the reality of it is, if you don't have the right people in the chairs, you're never going to get the right outcomes. And so, I encourage this group and each of you all to go out there and replace the bad candidates. The candidates you thought were good that misled you and defrauded you by what they said versus what they did, they need to go.
Thinking of anyone in particular?
Yeah. And, you know, and you just have to replace them with people that will do what they say, and then problems can be addressed. But other than that, you know, the rest of this is nibbling at the edges, because the politicians, you know, they hold the power and they hold the stick.
Let's go right here.
Two quick questions. Can a regent be lobbied?
Can a regent be lobbied?
I don't know, well, when you say lobby, do you mean like wined and dined and?
Yeah.
So,
Anything to do with finance?
well, I'm sure that they are. I can tell you that I've made a point of not accepting anything, not one book, not one meal, nothing. And I sought no reimbursement for any of my expenses, you know, for travel and anything, even things that I was entitled to under the law. You know, I just thought it was best that I'm a citizen volunteer, and I thought that was most appropriate. So, but you know, people, the big thing about politicians and regents is people really want to be in the club, and they don't want to be thrown out. And so they don't take the tough vote. They don't ask the hard question. They don't do sometimes what they should because they don't want to be ridiculed, or their husband or wife, spouse is hearing bad things in the neighborhood about them, and you know they're embarrassed. I mean, you just have to have a certain amount of defiance that you're going to do what you think is the right thing to do, and that's it. And but sometimes you don't get to stay in the club.
Let's go to Aaron, then we'll come over to you, Tom.
Wallace, you and Jonathan represent a rarity in politics today, which is guys that are willing to stand up regardless of opposition. Most of the elected officials, one right here in our backyard that you mentioned earlier, they flip at the slightest opportunity to sell out. What do you say to politicians like that who just don't have the intestinal fortitude or the backbone, and you pay a very high sacrifice for doing the right thing? So I know you have a very personal, I'm sure, opinion of those types of politicians.
You know, the reality of it is that politicians, my experience is they tell you whatever it is they're going to say, and either they do it or they don't. And if they don't do what they said, somehow there's this really complicated explanation on why it wasn't going to work, and
You just don't understand.
You don't understand, and
There's a bigger picture.
it's just, I mean, Connie Burton, I went and met with her during the last session, and I was like in awe. I mean, she's just tough and you know, sticking to her values and what she said. And she looked at me like going, this isn't that hard. I mean, this is what we said, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm like going, like that. And so I think all you can do, I mean, there's no use in trying to persuade these people once they go down that path. I mean, all you can do is replace them. Put them back in the private sector, get started there.
Wallace, the practice of tenured professorships. I dealt with some of that, and we talked about it when my son was going down to UT and when I served on a board over at A&M. Is that anything the regents can alter, or does that have to take a legislative decision? These left-wing professors are buried in, and they're there, and how can we alter some of that where they're not protected on a lifetime job?
How can we protect the state from liberal professors that are there forever?
So, on the issue of tenure, it is definitely a board issue. I mean, that's underneath our purview, and we can make changes as we see fit. What I did not understand when I came on the board is that tenure in Texas is a property right. It's a property right. And while we're an at-will work state, I mean, if Jonathan is a tenured professor and he does something horrible, I mean, it's still tough to get his tenure back. I mean, it's brutal. And it's a process that was set up years ago, and boards have allowed it to continue. You know, that's a deep pit trying to get in there. I don't think it makes sense to try to get rid of it, but I am in favor of alternate plans. I mean, there are great professors that we want to have stay at Texas, come to Texas, and do their research and teach our students. And they don't necessarily, I don't think, want tenure, the golden handcuffs that limit them. And at MD Anderson, which is one of our institutions, our tenure, I want to say it's 7 years. So it's really like a contract. We're going to get a great young professor, and we're going to have him under contract for 7 years during his prime, or her prime. And then at the end of it, if they have done great, they're a free agent. They're available to the free market to go after. If we want to get them, we'll have to pay more. Maybe we don't want them. Maybe they go on. But there's other ways to do it. But have we ever talked about it on our board? No. Right here. Sir.
Wallace, I don't want to leave the conversation without your characterization of the media's role in your whole situation. And the truth is that people are informed to some degree by good politicians and their own efforts. But if the media is fundamentally making the water muddy and making it impossible for the average and normal person to have a clear understanding.
Let me translate. A guy shoots a line and everyone freaks out. You uncover a scandal and no one talks about it.
So in truth, it's a great question. And I got to say, the thing that was most frightening to me, truly, was the fact that once all this started going, and there's information available, and people were talking about it, that the press was just missing in action. They are not all of them. Some of them were good, but the majority of them were lazy. They were fed the information from the wrong side, and they were just write whatever it was they were given. And when I say frightening, it's frightening because we all count heavily on the Fourth Estate to keep the government honest. And if they're going to be propped up, and they're not going to be Breitbart, we're in trouble. And
let's give them a little bit of credit. Some of them also are the food critic for the paper, and they have a lot of other responsibilities too. Right back here.
I can't.
I'm going to leave the stage now.
I don't know if Governor Abbott is supporting us. No. And nor have I. No.
That's your answer right there.
So isn't that the follow-up? Isn't that one way that we could help a little bit? I mean, could we not be sending messages to our current governor and say, hey, what are you doing? Governor Perry did this. Why aren't you speaking out in favor of protecting somebody that's doing the best they can for Texas? Is that not
I think anytime you want to hold any of your elected officials accountable or tell them what you want to do, I think it's an appropriate time to do so. Always. Yes, sir.
I'm curious about the personal costs that it took on you. Did it affect your business or did it affect your personal life when you were doing all this?
Yes. I have it's kind of funny. It's really immaterial to me, but it's just a sign of how far they will go. I have what's called a wetland. One of my businesses is something called a wetland mitigation bank, where I create wetlands. And for anybody that has to destroy wetlands as part of the U.S. Army Corps contract. And I've had this business for almost 15 years. And when the politicians came after me, they had people trolling in my neighborhood, looking for dirt on me, looking for dirt on my business, going through any lawsuit I've ever been through, looking for information. And in the last session, in the budget bill that was passed, I forgot where it is in the bill, but buried deep in the bill are a few lines there to where if any state agency wants to purchase mitigation credits, like my bank, if you will, this business I have, they have to come through the legislative budget board. And if they don't approve it, then it doesn't happen. And it was immaterial to me financially one way or the other, but it's just a sign of the punitive nature of some of these people in power. And but my friends are still my friends, and and those that might have been near the rim, you know, self-declared, and that's okay. But my family's been very supportive and loving and strong, and, you know, and as long as they're okay, I'm okay, so it's been okay.
We got time for one more question. Yes, sir.
Can you be reappointed?
Can you be reappointed?
I could be reappointed, but the odds of that are probably so infinitesimally small as to not consider it. It's up to the governor.
Well, that's it. Let's give this guy a round of applause.
Thank you so much, and I think he'll probably be around maybe for a little bit if y'all have more questions. But I have to tell you, both of these guys were like, what if we don't go to 8 o'clock? I'm just like, are you kidding me?